I'm Ed Salick, and this is in honor of, and welcome my co-host Paul Dietrich, who's been here with me for every show. 305 now, Paul?
305.
305. This is our 305th show over the past 6 years that we've been doing, and we're having a hell of a good time bringing information to the veterans. Now, today we got a special show, and I'm going to introduce all of our guests. So, gentlemen, if you just give a quick wave. Maty Forrester. Marty was Marine Corps, the only Marine, right? Rich Franceschini, Navy. Andy Mele, Army. We're going to get back to you in a few seconds, Andy. Okay. Vic Calderon, Army. Peter Nigido, Army. Did I say that right, Pete?
Nigido.
And Sal Mazza, Army. Gentlemen, welcome. Now, this group of men have a couple of things in common. Most of them worked in the post office, and they know each other for years. And just talking, it says, until recently, they never talked about being a veteran. They never talked about their service, served in Vietnam. And then into the picture comes Andy Mele. Now, Andy writes a very good column in his Staten Island Advance called the Memories column. And Andy happened to meet the gentleman, the group of men. And Andy, well, why don't we let you tell the story from this point?
Well, Ed, I try to do at least twice a year, around Memorial Day and then around Veterans Day, a column about veterans. And so I'm always on the lookout. And I was in Costco one day, and I see a fellow with a hat, Vietnam, shirt, Vietnam, jacket, Vietnam, pants, Vietnam. And I said to him, "Were you in Vietnam?" And he says, "Where?" It was Richie.
Never heard of it.
Richie, how do you pronounce it? Garofalo.
Richie
And
Garofalo.
Richie's not here today because he just had a procedure.
Open heart surgery.
Open heart surgery, and he's recuperating.
Richie, get well soon and get back on the street.
Yeah, we hope so. And so I told him who I was, and he said, yeah. So I called him up a while later, and we got together. He said, "Can I bring a couple of guys?" I said, "Sure." And he brought three other fellas, Marty, Richie, and who were the other? Ray and somebody else, Richie, another Richie. Well, who's the other one?
Ray.
Ray and who?
That was it.
No,
Yeah.
there's four of you.
Yeah, it was Richie Garofalo, me, Richie Franceschini, and Ray.
And Ray, okay, I'm sorry. So that was where that column came out of. And since then, there's some great guys. I've had a terrific time. They meet for breakfast, they meet for lunch, and they invited me, and I've been with them for going, seeing, spending time with them and everything. So it's a great experience for me to have gone through this, just to meet these guys, you know.
Marty, why don't you take it from there? Tell us what you can.
But when we first met Andy,
Yeah.
well, like I said, my friend Richie set it up, the meeting. We met at the Annandale Diner one Sunday morning for breakfast. Richie came, and it was great. He sat there. We all talked about different experiences that we had in Vietnam, and all the while Andy's writing and everything. And I'm saying he can't be getting all this. It's amazing, you know. But he sat and he wrote everything down, and we all told him about certain experiences that we all had that have resonated with us through the years, and they all wound up in Sunday Advance, and it was kind of special. I thought it was kind of special.
Okay. Well, let's start with you.
I went in the Navy, I was 17 years old.
Right.
In those days, they called it a kiddie cruise. If you went in before your 18th birthday, you got out before your 21st birthday.
Yeah.
So I was deployed overseas to Subic Bay, where I was on an ammunition ship, USS Haleakala AE-25. One night off the coast of Da Nang, there was this tremendous explosion. It was like 11 o'clock. Most of the guys were in their racks. And I was just waiting for the next explosion to just go away. You know? Because during World War II, the Mount Hood was hit, and it wasn't hit by enemy fire. There was some type of explosion on the ship. And what happened was, the day before, they had sent 17 sailors to do some work on the base. Well, when they came back, the ship was gone. It hit 30 ships. It killed over 1,000 sailors. And it just shows you that, like in my situation, I believe it was just by the grace of God that the ship didn't blow, you know. And then also we're over there with the Forrester. They had that tremendous fire. What happened was there was a rocket that exploded, and it hit an oil tank up on top of the deck. And the ship, the Forrester went on fire, and we lost about 138 sailors that day. And John McCain was lieutenant commander who was on the Forrester at the time of the fire. But what happened was all the guys that were special in putting out the fires, sorry to say, they were the ones that died first. And afterwards, they talked about having these just screens and just putting body parts all over the place. It was a tremendous explosion. And we went by the Forrester the next day, and it was still smoking, and you could just smell, you could smell death.
Yeah,
on
that's
a ship. Yeah, it was just a terrible thing, yeah.
that's a smell that gets in your lungs.
Yeah, and you
it
just
don't come out.
And you just
smell
you,
of
you never
burnt
forget
flesh.
the smell, and it was just it just kept going and going because of the oil tank on the ship. Yeah.
You told us a story inside about being attacked.
Yeah, we were attacked by Russian MiGs, and we did a good job. We got rid of them, but it seems like I was talking inside, is that with Russia since World War II, they've always been involved with us, and it's always been against us. You know, if you talk about Cuba, the incident that happened in Cuba, you talk about what's going on in Syria today. I mean, everywhere we are to try to defend democracy and freedom, they're right there fighting really basically against us. And I believe when President Reagan said that they are the evil empire, he hit it right on the button. Right on the button.
Marty, what can you tell us about your time in the service?
Vietnam, well, like Richie, I joined the Marines at 17, got out at 21. I can't believe I went through Parris Island at such a young age. Sometimes I wonder how I made it through Parris Island more than I made it through Vietnam. It was really rough back then. I got to Vietnam in July of '67, the summer of love.
Yeah.
The summer of love. Right? Oh my God. No, Woodstock was '69. And when I got there, my MOS was supply, but they weren't putting the guys into their MOSs or working, you know, what they were trained to do. So I was sent to a Marine Security Detachment for the MACV organization, which, you know, has little compounds throughout Vietnam, the whole country, and had advisors to train the ARVNs, Navy medical teams, you know, to take care of local hospitals and stuff. And I was sent to a unit, a place called Tam Key, which was a little north of Chu Lai. And it was in Quang Tin province. And I have a funny story too, because when I got there, and I got to this compound in August of '67, and at the time, the Marines were conducting an operation to the west of where we were. It was called Operation Swift. And after about 2 weeks being there, we had heard a rumor that, you know, a chaplain had been killed in the operation, a chaplain attached to the 5th Marines. Didn't know his name, didn't know anything about it, until 20-something years later when I was moved to Staten Island, and they were renaming Seaside Boulevard to Father Capodanno Boulevard.
Right.
I read an article in the Advance that, you know, this certain chaplain was killed in Quang Tin province around September 4th or 5th of 1967. And I said to my officers, this has to be that chaplain that we heard about. You know, that a chaplain and a Catholic priest had been killed, you know, attending to Marines in the field. Yep. And it was like, wow, I can't believe I was right there, a few miles away from when this happened. And, you know, I never knew his name, never knew anything about it. But these are the kind of things that, you know, happen in life. You know, you never realize, you know, you're so close. And I was with that group during the Tet Offensive of '68. You know, Tam Key was like the capital hamlet of Quang Tin province. where they had the province chief, and our compound was always a target for the Viet Cong. You know, they used to shell us a lot, and you know, we used to have like small ground assaults, nothing major or anything like that. But during the Tet Offensive, it was for real. It was very serious. They really came at us with everything they had. I even said to myself, I can't believe where did these guys get all this ordnance from? I mean, they were shelling us all night long, for hours on end. You know, it let up for a while, then we just start in again, all the mortars and rockets. And the compound I was in was like really almost leveled. You know, all the buildings were burning, vehicles were burning. I remember the next day when, you know, everything quieted down and the smoke cleared, and it resonated in my mind that I took a breath of air and it was clean. I said, God, what a nice thing to have a breath of fresh air, because all the smell of the burning and the cordite and everything, you know, you don't realize the smells. That's the one thing people don't get when you watch war movies or anything is the smells of war, the smells of death that stick, like I say, it sticks in your memory.
Right. Yep.
And it's particularly, too, on the night where it was mentioned in an article where when I went to a different base north, a place called Red Beach, and I happened to have escaped a tragedy where I was in a hut with 13 men. I was an odd man out, and I left the hut, and that night the hut was hit by a rocket, a direct hit. And all 12 of those people that are in there, most of them were killed, and the others were severely injured. And that's one of the things I remember, too. We were running to the hut that was on fire, and we were trying to pull the guys out. And the smell of the burning hut, everything, and the smell of the burning flesh, and the screaming and everything, you know, guys moaning, like, you know, dying sounds, you know, when guys, you know, you see them dying and, you know, the flames and stuff. Those smells are something that really stick in your memory.
Right.
And sometimes, you know, if you really sit and think about it, you could actually get physically sick again when those memories come back into your mind.
Right. I was talking to Paul about something similar. Paul, of course, he saw action in Iraq, and he often talks about how those things stay in your head, and they just don't ever go away in your lifetime.
You never know what's going to stick in there.
Yeah.
You never
Sometimes
know.
the smell will trigger it.
Yeah.
You'll smell something and it's right there again.
Yeah. It's,
I've often said that in the various countries that I've visited, each one had almost its own unique smell, and then you had everything else layered on top of it, and it can just be a trigger to you.
And Vietnam had its own special funk, too.
Yep.
Am I right, guys? It had its own special funky smell about it.
Yep.
That, you know, it's just, and it just, these things stay there. Sometimes, you know, they're sitting there, but when they come forward, you can actually, wow, you know, like, you know.
So Vietnam was very vivid in your mind.
It never leaves.
It never leaves. Yeah.
I heard somebody say one time that I'll probably think about Vietnam on my deathbed. And I said to myself, I said, yeah, he's probably right. And probably if I do pass away like that, where I'm in a bed in a hospital thing, I probably will think about Vietnam in my last moments, because it was such a big part, like, as we were so young to have experienced what we experienced, you know. Today,
I don't think the age, though, really matters.
But we were kids.
Look at me, I was in my 50s.
You have to be a kid, though,
And-
because you can't appreciate life until you've lived it. Because this is the thing I always think back with the friends that I lost. And it seems funny, but every time I'm at a special occasion, a wedding or something, somewhere during the course of the night, it will flash through me like, look what all those guys missed, all the things in life that you've missed. And I don't think you could appreciate it at 17. Or I was 19 when I was in Vietnam, you know. And that was the normal age. Just about everybody was 19 or 20.
Yep.
And you don't experience anything really at that age, you know, all the good things in life and everything, plus the tough things. But you can't really appreciate life and what you have until you've lived it.
Exactly.
You know, you have to be young to
You
be
didn't
able
get
to.
to see children. You didn't get to see children growing up.
Because we in Vietnam, we really didn't care. If we got killed, right? I mean, you know, it's, you know, it was like, okay, it don't mean nothing. That's where it came from. It don't mean nothing. You know, it's, you know, it don't mean nothing. You know, and it's true.
Before we go any further, welcome home, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
And thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank
You served too.
Sal, thank you.
Thank you.
Sal, tell us about your...
I graduated McKee High School June of '68. I enlisted in the Army. I enlisted in the Army September of '68, and I got to Vietnam March of '69, and stayed there till March of '70. I was in a combat unit We would do search and destroy missions. We'd go out for like 20, 21 days, find the enemy, whatever we had to do. Then we'd come back to the hill. We'd get new fatigues. We'd shave, do a week of what they call bunker guard, and then we'd go out again. And we'd constantly be doing that. In fact, when I was there, I wound up catching malaria. So,
Oh, lucky you.
and then I had jungle rot besides, because I'd cut my pants when you walk through the woods. It was so hot,
Right.
and the bamboo would cut my legs, and I wound up with jungle rot and malaria. So, wasn't too pretty a sight.
What about the Bob Hope show?
The Bob Hope Show. Marty called me and said they were looking for people
Oh, Ann Margaret.
to
God bless
do
Ann Margaret.
a Bob Hope. Anybody had the Bob Hope Show?
We
And I
love you, Ann Margaret.
I have a picture of what wasn't. I don't think it was
Joey.
Joey Heatherton.
Hesitant.
Dance with
In
Joey.
July of March
the
of
mailman's-
'69, Christmas of
Mailman's
'69, I had a
daughter.
Bob Hope Show.
Yeah.
And I got front row seats for Unreal because I got up from guard duty and I went right down. And Joey Heatherton was dancing. She came and she sat on my lap.
Oh, boy.
And they took pictures of
Rock
it.
dance. You had to see a picture. He was a good looking. He's good looking now. He was really good looking when he
I
was
was
young.
19.
She
I
went
just
bingo.
turned 19. Yeah. 120 pounds. I was soaking wet. But that was a good experience. We had a good time there. But, you know, then you go back to the war. You know.
How about all the steaks you used to get when you came back off mission?
Yes, when we used to go,
We never got steaks.
every 30 days we'd go down to Chulai Beach and they called it a stand down. And for 1 week we'd get steaks and beers the whole week.
I never got that.
Clean uniforms, and then we'd go out again. But that was every 30 or 40 days, you know, it was nice. Chulai Beach was a beautiful beach. They had the
Was.
Navy right next door to us.
I was there. I made it.
And they show movies at night and hot popcorn. And then one guy told me, he says, would you like to call home? They call home. I said, yeah. They have a Mars station. Went to the Mars station. They went through ham radio. They contacted my parents. Oh, and the first thing they tell you is, don't say where you are.
Yep.
And when it got home, I said, hello, Ma, how you doing? She said, Sal, where are you? Can't tell you.
Vietnam, huh?
Yeah, but that was weird to call home from there on a beach to Staten Island.
Nice story.
It was strange, very strange. But they were glad to hear, but every 5 minutes she'd say, Sal, where are you?
One of the difficult things nowadays, and this was even happening in Iraq, was that almost everybody had a cell phone.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, we had
yes.
nothing
And
like that. Nothing.
you
Oh
had
my
to be
God.
very careful because somebody got killed in your unit and somebody would be calling the relatives
Oh,
and telling them before they got notified. And oh my God, what a
really?
mess that would
Yes,
be.
that is horrible.
And pictures being sent back that probably inappropriate to the general public. And
Thank God we didn't have cell phones.
yes,
I mean, the only thing I had was a Panasonic radio.
Yep.
And of
Transistor.
and January of '69, I went onto a top of a mountain to listen to the Jets win the Super Bowl.
I was still in Vietnam too when the Jets won.
I
Didn't
was
even know what going
fortunate.
on.
I got back.
That was almost ancient history because I'm
Did you have
a
popcorn ready
diehard
going
Jet
into it?
fan.
No, I was on an ambush and I was sitting up and I had the radio to my ear and I'm saying, oh guys, the Jets won the Super Bowl.
I found out, so a friend of mine was reading Stars and Stripes, and he goes, hey, Marty, you're from New York, right? I said, yeah. He goes, did you know the Jets just won the Super Bowl? I looked at him, I said, the Jets, wait a minute, they used to be the Titans, right? And I said, I was like,
There used to be the Titans.
I saw them in the polo grounds
because,
when
you
they
know,
were Titans.
too.
I had been away for a few, about three and a half, almost 4 years since then, and I had really realized they changed their name, and I said, what the hell's the Super Bowl? I never heard of this thing, the Super Bowl.
Yep.
This was Super Bowl III, so for Super Bowl II and I, I was overseas.
Yeah.
So I didn't know anything about this.
I
was
got
like,
back
Super
from
Bowl.
Vietnam 3 days before the Super Bowl, so I did get to watch it. I watched it on the ship in a little 15-inch black and white TV.
Hey, at least you watched it.
I
Huh?
saw it.
You know, he brings up a funny story, and he talks about popcorn and food. Sorry, but I remember, like, you know, we really didn't have the amenities in Vietnam that, like, a lot of kids that are deployed today have, you know?
Right.
And I remember when I was, my second tour, when I was up in this supply base north of Da Nang called Red Beach, and we had these little, like, open air, like mess halls, if you want to call them that, where everything was powdered and processed. The food was like, we'd rather have sea rations. The stuff was so bad. And I remember one time, we were coming off duty, and then we were walking back from the airstrips and the place where we used to load up the helicopters and stuff with supplies, whatever. And the guy says, "You know, guys are not going to believe this. They got ice cream at the mess hall."
Wow.
We're saying, "What? The frick? Ice cream? Yeah, ice cream in Vietnam? Are you crazy?" And they go, "No, there's ice cream at the mess hall." And we were like, "Okay." We went there. They had ice cream. We were like, "Ah." I mean, I had been in Vietnam at that time almost a year and a half or longer. First time we had ice cream, I was like, wow, this is amazing. They had ice cream in Vietnam, you know? We took our canteen cups, I filled that thing up about like that, you know? It's amazing.
The good thing was, we used to get packages sent home from our parents.
Yes.
Salami, cheese, pepperoni. And when you got a package, everybody said,
Everybody shared it.
"Guys,
Guys
got a
did their shit.
package, let's go."
Everybody shared it.
And
When
you'd
he
eat
men-
that salami and,
It's when he mentioned popcorn, I'm like, popcorn? That's amazing. You had popcorn, you know? Like,
Amazing.
Well, I had somebody send me chocolate chip cookies, and they don't
just-
travel well in the
No.
heat.
They
didn't
They're
make
like,
Vietnam's
One
the same
big
thing.
mess.
Hot, hot, sticky,
the
certain things.
salami was green molded, we had to
Yeah.
scrape it off, but
Sometimes the kids got care packages
You
and
still
the
ate
chocolate
it, though,
bars were
didn't
like,
you?
yeah,
still
it was salami, you know, it was a big
chocolate
general
bars were just
salami.
mush, you know, like, yeah, amazing.
Paul, when you were in Iraq, did they have things like stand downs for your guys?
You had certain times that a unit would be stood down, and you also had people who would be sent on leave down to Qatar. They had an actual, like a rest camp down
an
there.
R&R?
You could get 3 days.
Oh, in country.
And while Qatar was actually outside of the country, and it was a friendly place,
Right.
you could even get 2 beers a day there
Wow.
in the bar that was on the base. But it was a nice place to get somebody away from action for a while. Without the real difficulty was if you went home. Like I came home on leave in about after 9 months, and I came home because my daughter was getting married.
Oh, congratulations.
Well, it took 5 days for me to get from Baghdad.
Right.
Because first you got to fly out of country to get to a commercial airline, and then you got to wait for the charter plane, and then you got to fly back, and and then you got to fly from there. So I ended up coming in on a Thursday night, late at night, and I'm exhausted. I've been traveling for 5 days. Haven't had a shower or anything else for 5 days. And
So we were used to that. Right?
yes, but I come in and we got to take you over to the Tux place to get you fitted up, because Saturday she's getting married. So
Wow, that was quick.
it was an interesting experience. And then again, it took 5 days to get back when I went back. But interesting.
You didn't have any pull. Somebody put you in a jet fighter,
He was a
fly you
colonel.
right
Imagine how
home.
tough
I
that
was
was
a
for an
colonel.
enlisted man. He was a colonel.
so-
A colonel. Wow.
and you had to put in for your leave like 4 months in advance. And then it was, everything was planned out like that.
Yeah.
And just getting to the airport was a hassle.
Yeah.
Normally you went by helicopter because ground transport was kind of dangerous. But you had to get from Baghdad to the helipad, then from the helipad to the airport, and then wait for the
Plane.
in-country plane to get down to Kuwait.
Well, at least when you put in for something, Colonel, they took it. Like, you used to put in for things, you go, yeah, right.
Well, funny story on that.
okay.
I had put on my sheet, I need it for this date because my daughter is getting married. If you're not going to give it to me, then you may as well keep me here because there's no sense in me going home because the general was at home. She was going to cut my... So...
Wow.
And then I had 2 weeks before, they called me and they said, okay, your leave is approved, and they had me leaving on Wednesday. And I said, guys, check the date I put in for. Am I not getting it? Because I may as well stay. Oh, we made a mistake. I said, whew, thank God.
Yeah.
They did give it to me, though.
We used to just get the,
Yep.
Victor, tell us about your Vietnam experiences.
Let me start. I was 18 years old. I joined the Army when I was still in high school. I grew up, where I grew up here on Staten Island, most of us that graduated came out of, I grew up in Mount Loretta. I don't know if many familiar with it.
Oh, yes.
And just about all of us, I would say 90% of the guys that graduated from there went straight into service. I was 18, I joined. I took my basic training down in Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Yep.
I went to advanced infantry training down in Fort Polk, Louisiana.
Oof. And there too.
Through NCO school in Fort Benning. Trained troops in Fort Dix, and then went on to Vietnam in August of '69. Sitting on the plane as Woodstock was going on. And I'm saying to myself, boy, these guys are having a good time, and I don't even know if I'm coming back home.
Yeah.
So my first experience of Vietnam was when we taxied onto, and they opened the doors, and that heat came in. And I mean, it was instant sweat.
Blast furnace.
We're walking down the steps, getting out onto the tarmac, and I look to my left, and I see nothing but body bags
Going out.
going out. And here we coming in. And everybody's like, all these guys with the, looking at us and say, yep, that's going to be you guys in a few weeks. And I'm saying, welcome to Vietnam.
Yeah.
And I get there, and I wind up with the 101st Airborne Division. Wasn't airborne, but I didn't know at the time that 101st Airborne went air assault. So I wind up up north, up by Hue, Phu Bai, in an LZ called a LZ Sally, a small. I wound up in a small in a small company. There was only 2 companies on this fire base, and we did a lot of recon and stuff like that. I was there 7 months when I got hit in the Shore Valley. I was wounded. My whole squad got wounded. I wound up in Japan for 3 months, and came home, and got spit on. Got caught everything in the book. I wound up in Fort Meade.
Oh, Fort Meade, Maryland. Yeah.
Came out. I was on. Couldn't afford to. I didn't have a car, so I took a bus from Fort Meade. Got off at the Port Authority. Spit on again. Went to the men's room. Took my uniform off. Never put it on again. And I worked at UPS for a number of years. And one night, we were in the break room having lunch. And we're talking, one thing led to another. And guys were talking about the service, and this one guy mentions that his brother was killed in Vietnam. And I said, wow, I says, who was he with? He was in the Marines. And I looked at the guy, and we were working together now at night. Yeah. And I says, your last name is Mendez, right? He goes, yeah. He goes, I says, your brother was in the Marines? He goes, yeah. He goes, sister, it wouldn't have been Angel Mendez, would it? Wow. And he goes, yeah.
He was a Marine hero.
Oh, yeah, he's up for the Medal of Honor now.
He's
Angel.
a Marine hero.
Yeah. And I worked with this guy for 3 years and didn't realize that not only he grew up in Mount Loretta, but I grew up with his brother who was killed in Vietnam, who was up for the Medal of Honor. And I'm like, and he looked at it, and I said to him, I says, I knew Angel. He goes, you know my brother? I said, I knew him, yeah. I know Angel. Yeah, he was in Mount Loretta. He's buried in Mount Loretta. There's him and there's two guys that I grew up with there that are buried where the nuns and priests are buried. They're the only 2 that are buried there. Wow. That got killed in Vietnam. Alex Santiago and Angel. But to make a long story short, this is how it was when we came home. You didn't want to tell anybody anything. Yeah. People did not know I was even in the service. I didn't, for years, I worked with guys for 15, 20 years. And they found out, I said, wow, I didn't know you were in Vietnam. It's a shame that's the way they treated us.
We're going to get into that in a few seconds.
I'm glad that the guys nowadays that are coming home are getting treated with respect.
Yeah,
that they deserve.
Long overdue.
That's way overdue. Right. And
Yep.
Peter, how about your time in Vietnam?
Yeah, I was drafted in 1969. I'm the only draftee here. I still have my induction thing with the token on it.
Yeah, you brought it in. one day. You
My
brought it into
father
the group
wound
one
up
day.
saving it, and I found it after he passed. And
Yeah.
and it says, greetings, you have all your ordered. And I didn't think I was going to get drafted, because I was an only son. And here I'm thinking I'm just going to go down to Bay Street there and come home that night. And next thing I know, I was in Fort Hamilton. At 4:30, I had my hand up and I was sworn in. And what they did is they separated us. They put Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and they just went like this. And they spread us apart, and this was the Army, Navy, and I was in the Army. And about 5:30, I was on a plane going out of Kennedy down to Fort Gordon, and I did my basic there, and then I went to Fort Benning for advanced infantry training. And then after that, on January 2nd of 1970, I wound up in Vietnam, and I remember opening the doors, and it reminded me of the outhouse of the world, as soon as I smelled that.
Yep.
And I wound up
Very
in with
close
the
to
9th,
it, yes.
the 9th Division,
The funk.
5th to the 60th, and I was a point man there for almost 7 months, and then we wound up in Cambodia in 1970. I don't think too many people remember that, when Nixon decided that he was going to go into Cambodia, and he only went in 17 miles, and I was still a point man, and we should have went in further, because the way I think of it today is that this is what changed the whole outlook of the war. With the weapons that we found in Cambodia was unbelievable. They even had helicopters, and we didn't know that, and we wound up on Shakey's Hill, which is documented, and we were working with the 1st Cav, and then after we got back out of Cambodia, the 9th Division colors went home, but you didn't go home. So I wound up going into the Cav. So I spent my last 4.5 months in the Cav, and I was a point man there again, until one of the sergeants realized that I was in country a long time, and he said, "What are you doing up front?" Because I was getting short, and
What time?
and it was we were in the jungle, going from the rice paddies in the 9th Division to the jungle was like going to 2 different wars. Here you're humping 60, 70 pounds on your back, and when you're a point man, you're breaking brush, and it wasn't a nice experience, but I can remember a lot of things, they were speaking about, things that remind you, if I'm riding along especially if I'm in Pennsylvania and I see all the trees, in my mind I'm still planting ambushes.
Oh, yeah.
That's to relate to what they were speaking about, how things trigger, and you work on that every day, you try to, and if I had to do it again, I'd be a point man again. I loved it, I really loved that job, and you were the first one there, and August 6th is one of the days I'll never forget in my whole life. One of my friends got killed, and it was horrible. I had gotten medevaced out, and he took my place. And I live with that survivor's death. A lot of people say, "Well, it wasn't you,"
No, it doesn't work that
walk
way.
in my
Time.
shoes.
Doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
Doesn't work that way, no.
No.
But you'll carry it all your life.
All my life.
That,
I don't really want to mention his name because I don't know how the family would feel, I don't think that's fair because they're not here, And but it was an experience, and when I came home, like Victor said, that's why me and Victor, we relate a lot because, where we were, what we did, and but my experience was, I got out of the jungle, and 24 hours later, I was in San Francisco, in the same uniform after 60 days in the bush.
Oh, boy.
And I was right.
Yeah.
I was right. I had a beard. My hair was long. And I had no clothes. And when I got back to Benoit, they robbed my. It was missing.
Your duffel.
My duffel bag was missing. So I wound up coming home in December, probably I think December 18th or 19th. I don't remember. It was around December, just before Christmas, and. They gave me, in San Francisco, they gave me khakis to come home to New York in the middle of December. And all I had was a cap like you. I can't mention what kind of cap was on there. But, and I just had my name tag, and that was in a short sleeve shirt.
Freezing your ass off.
And it was a horrible feeling. But I did meet a gentleman on the plane, that couldn't thank me enough. And, a lot more to the story, but doing time, and that's it for me.
Well, that's the second time we're hearing about somebody who met a gentleman that couldn't thank you enough as compared to the multitudes of the people in society.
Eddie, can I give an honorable mention to two of our brothers that aren't here
Yeah.
today? First thing I'd like to, give an honorable mention to is Richie Garofalo, who was actually the one Andy met in Costco at that time,
Right.
and actually set this whole thing in motion that we're
Set it up.
the article in the Advance in here now. And Richie was in the Air Force, stationed in Benoit, and he was in Air Force security. And he has Agent Orange from Vietnam. He has a lot of health problems, bladder cancer, and he would have been here today, but he underwent open heart surgery last Thursday. He's had heart disease, fully disabled from,
Agent
Right.
Orange.
Agent Orange, yeah. So Richie,
Yeah,
if we do this again, you'll be with us, okay, brother?
We'll
love you.
absolutely be
Yeah, well,
doing it
He's the
again.
one. He's the one that put this all in motion, right, Andy? He's the one. Yeah. Another thing I'd like to give an honorable mention to is our brother Bossy Maltezo, who worked with us in the post office, was part of our veterans group with Dr. Ayers every Monday, and Bossy passed away last year. He lost his battle with lung cancer. He had lung cancer for I think 40 years from Agent Orange. He was on the original Agent Orange lawsuit against the U.S. government that they did back in the 80s. He
Right.
was part of that group of a couple thousand guys that originally sued over Agent Orange.
I know Bossy. He was
And you
a
know
gentleman.
Bossy,
I know
yes.
him well.
Manager
yeah.
of Mariners Harbor. And,
What a gentleman, yeah.
yeah. And actually, he was supposed to be with us in this article, but he passed away. And our friend Ray stepped in his place. Right. We were going to have all four services represented in that article, Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. But he's gone, but not forgotten. And I wanted, wherever you are up there, brother, we're always thinking about you.
I'm sure he's
Love you.
listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to thank Andy for making this all happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Andy's the man.
He spoke with Rosemary. He did some other show with Rosemary.
Yeah.
And he spoke with Rosemary about this, and Rosemary brought him to my office, and I said, absolutely, we'll do the show. And to me, this is a great show that we're doing right now, and I'm enjoying it. And I mean, it's one of the few times that guys actually get to talk about Vietnam, about what actually happened. So, Andy, I can't thank you enough for making this happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, we all
Thanks
thank
for
you
doing
too,
it.
Andy. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
Okay. What I'd like to do right now, and Paul will help us along with this, is I want to do a comparison of what happened when Paul came home from Iraq and compare it to what happened when you guys came home from Vietnam, and talk about what happened with your lives since that point. We were talking in a green room, and some of us just chose to take the uniform off and bury it.
Yep.
And keep it buried until, for whatever reason, it came out, as it does with you guys, at this later point in life. But I'm sure a lot of things transpired from the time you first got home. And literally, I can't think of a vet that I know that felt good coming home, other than being home.
Yeah.
Yep.
But as far as everything around him, there was no respect there. There was no camaraderie, no respect, no patriotism, nothing. I mean,
Even to some of the actual, some of the service organizations.
Yes.
Yeah, we were
So-
just.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
thought
we
it wasn't a
took
real
it.
war. That we weren't real veterans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We faced.
Yeah.
We faced a
Second
lot.
class citizens.
We faced a lot of discrimination, even I think in job seeking jobs and everything. I think that's why a lot of us wound up with government jobs, because most places wouldn't even hire veterans. I went for an interview down in the Wall Street area. It's been so long, I got to be honest, I can't actually remember the company and everything, but I filled out the interview. I sat down with back then it was the personnel, but they weren't called human resources at the time. The guy looked it over, and he looked at me and says, "Oh, you're in the Marines, huh?" And he goes, "Vietnam, huh?" He goes, drops the thing, and says, "I'm going to be honest with you, just like that is, I would never hire somebody who was stupid enough to go to Vietnam."
Nice.
That would infuriate me.
I was just so stunned. I didn't even say anything back. I was like, I can't believe this guy actually said it to me. I mean, I was like, I just got up and walked out. But it was like, I never expected something like that. You know, it was like, you know, the way he just did it to Nashe, just dropped the thing down and goes,
Why did it
matter of
change?
factly.
What's that?
I asked Marty about that. Why is it all so different today? Why with the wounded warriors and this and that? What changed everything? Why are these guys heroes now?
I think the
when
first
they're the
Gulf
same
War
heroes
changed
they were?
everything. I
What?
think the first Gulf War changed everything. People,
Yes.
yeah, I think it was the first Gulf War, and I think after 9/11, I think when a lot of people realized that we really do need a military. You know, the military is, you know, I mean, Vietnam was
one.
the other side of the world. It wasn't affecting America in any way. People, you know, it was like, you know, so it was something, most people, we shouldn't have even bothered, and you guys are idiots for taking part and everything. You know, but we were patriots, man. I mean, our country asked us to serve, we served. I mean, soldiers aren't supposed
You
to
don't get a
question.
choice.
Soldiers aren't supposed to question. You know, we
And
take,
the
we
guy-
take an oath.
The government upped the numbers.
Yeah, but we take
It
an
was,
oath.
yeah,
And, you know,
They
part
did
of
that
the
in
oath
Iraq,
is that you
too.
will,
yeah.
I know before I got mobilized, my company knew that I was an officer. And I actually got a call at my office, and I'm looking at it, I don't recognize the number, and it was the Vice President for Human Resources for Phillips Petroleum.
Wow.
And they said, well, you know we're going to have a number of people get mobilized, because this was after 9/11.
Yeah.
And we don't really have a policy. What would you recommend? And I said, well, you know, to be perfectly honest, what's right for me is not going to be what's right for somebody that's a PFC or a corporal.
Right.
I said, but I do have 2 reservists working for me who are enlisted. Let me ask them. So I went and I asked them, and they said the number one thing for them was to keep their medical and dental benefits so their families wouldn't be put through changing doctors and having to go and do all this. And the second thing would be to pay the difference in the pay. So I said, well, that actually makes sense. To me, again, the same thing was the medical and dental for my family while I was gone. You know, the pay was nice, but as a colonel, you know, the pay was nice anyway. So I called them back and I said, here's their order of priorities, and it was the medical and dental. He says, we can do that, no problem. And he said the second thing is, for them particularly, the difference in the pay will make a very big difference to them. And he said, well, we'll do both.
Wow.
And they paid my difference in pay, and they covered my benefits for the entire 2 years and 2 months. And they did it for every person that was mobilized. And like I said, the company was fabulous. They did a story on me when I came back, had me in uniform. Hey, they were great. I had talked about, you said about your experience being bad coming back. When I came through Atlanta airport, we went out through Baltimore but came back through Atlanta. The USO took us in uniform through the airport. People applauded.
Wow, that's great.
People were trying to buy us drinks, and I had to keep telling them, I can't drink. I'm under orders not to drink. I cannot have a drink in uniform. Somebody sees this somewheres on YouTube.
Yeah.
I get court-martialed for having a drink. I'm under orders. Order number 1 was you can't drink. They moved us up to first class when we were on commercial airline. Total different experience. And I don't know whether the country grew up and finally figured out that we're just doing what we were asked to do.
See, that was the sad part, though.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we were just doing a job. You know, that was, you know, I mean, I figured I'd owe something to this country, you know,
Yeah.
and that's
And
I'm
you paid it
very
back.
patriotic, yes, you know, and you know, I'm the first one in my family to have gone into the service. Since then, I have 2 brothers that went in the service. I have a nephew now who's with the Special Forces
Excellent.
overseas.
God bless.
And it's, you know, I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, when people were just jumping ship and going to Canada, you know, I said I couldn't do that. I couldn't live with myself if I did that.
They made them heroes too.
And those guys were welcomed back
Yeah, Mayor
before we
Lindsay did
were.
that.
Yeah.
Before
Mayor
we
Lindsay
were,
did
they
that.
were welcomed back
That's
into the
right.
country.
But I think
Before
also
we were-
another thing that I see is different. is that the younger veterans now, the ones that are serving now, tend to talk a little bit more. They still don't really come out and really admit it, but they do talk a little bit more, and I think they also are more willing to go to the VA and at least talk about it there
yes.
and get help for these conditions that every one of us has, including myself. And I've related my experience. When I came home on leave, I went down to see my daughter get married. I remember driving down 95, and I am scared because there's no concrete walls on either side of me to protect me from shrapnel. I've been shot at and mortared and rocketed and IED'd for 9 months.
Even to this day, I still, when I see a helicopter fly by,
Yep.
I look for the door gunner.
Well,
Yeah.
Right? It's a crazy thing to do, but I was looking for a door gunner.
but these things don't leave you. You've got to be able to work through them and keep your blood pressure down, keep your pulse rate down, because this is built into you. It's your reaction.
Yeah. I was just talking to my son the other day, and I was saying, gee, I wish my grandfather would have shared some things with me, because he was a Purple Heart
Yeah.
and in World War I, and never a word.
No.
And the only thing my father had mentioned to me was that they were getting ready for the invasion of Japan. Other than that, he would never talk about anything that went on.
And my father wouldn't talk about World
Yeah.
War II either.
My father wouldn't talk about World War II, and I've told the story too many times on this already before. But Thanksgiving dinner, my father, crack of thunder,
Went under the table.
my father went under the table. We had 40 people for Thanksgiving dinner at the house, old Italian
embarrassing.
style, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, the kids at the small tables in the foyer.
yeah. I get it.
That thunder hit. My father dove under the table, and then he got up. He was embarrassed.
Yeah.
Never spoke about it. Never spoke about it. I was a kid. I was maybe 11 or 12 when that happened.
Right.
Okay, and I, nothing made sense to me, except Dad jumped under the table for some reason. Okay.
Yeah.
Later on in life, you know, and after I served myself, you
Understood.
realize
You understood.
he was in the artillery. He heard that crack of thunder. He thought it was his coming at him, you know?
True.
So,
I think the biggest difference today is I guess we were conditioned to be ashamed of what we did. I think that's what it came down to, right, guys?
Yeah, they made you ashamed.
Yeah.
We were
That's what it
conditioned. We
was.
were conditioned to be ashamed.
I mean, between the civilians,
Yeah.
then you go and try to get taken care. You know you had a problem, and you went to the VA hospital. You knew you had a problem, but they didn't. At the time, all they wanted to do was
your
give you
drugs.
some medication. Here,
Ship you out.
take that and
We
get
weren't
out of
well
here.
received at the VA.
Not, they didn't want to. They didn't want to know what was
Much
what your
different today,
problem.
but
I do think that has changed.
It
That's
was,
changed a
it was
lot.
It was known as a nervous disorder.
Yeah,
Yep.
That's what they told
that's
you.
what we had.
Take some
what
Lipian and
always-
you'll be okay.
What always tickled my thing was that, you know, when they flew us back and forth to Vietnam, you know, I mean, when I left Vietnam, we flew out of Marine Corps Air Station El Toro. The second time, we flew out of Travis Air Force Base. But coming back, they flew us into LAX.
Right for it, coming
And
back.
San Francisco, I mean, why not fly us back into the military bases? We didn't have to deal with these people that, you know, would stand at the airports and jeer at you.
A lot of it has to do with whether it was a charter or
Well, they
whether
were
it
all
was a
chartered
military
planes.
aircraft.
We flew out back and forth on Flying Tiger Airlines. You ever fly Flying Tiger
Okay.
Airlines?
Oh, God.
Yeah,
See, I
but
take that.
certain of the airlines don't have landing rights certain places. That's part of the issue.
It just didn't
Right.
matter. I'm thinking about it now, and I said, didn't it really? Why don't you just fly us into a military base and we could get home from there? You know, find our way to the airport. We could change, but to fly us
This-
directly into LAX or San Francisco was
the
crazy.
sad thing that happened, though, was you came home, we all came home, we were abused. The media was, forget about it, we were bad guys in the media, you know. I mean, all you had to do was turn on Channel 2 News at night, and they would have
But
shown.
Hanoi Jane wasn't.
don't even mention that
Oh,
name.
don't even mention that.
Don't even mention that name.
please,
My blood boils.
She
with
can
that.
hear
How
that.
about Walter Cronkite?
Yeah.
He was
they
like a
always showed you
disaster.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Calley with the
But-
killings.
Yeah.
But with all of that going on, plus add to that the fact that now you're out, and the American Legion don't want you.
The VFW,
VFW
don't
didn't
want
want
you.
you.
VFW don't want
wasn't
you.
too crazy
you know.
about us.
Yeah.
And what happens is you just, not me, military, not me.
You shut down. That's
You
what we all
shut
did.
down.
We all shut
Okay.
down.
But as a result, a lot of guys lost out on benefits they could have been receiving all
did.
along.
Yes.
Okay?
And help that we needed.
Educational benefits, medical benefits. There was so many benefits that you were entitled to back then.
You earned. I don't like the word entitled. You earned
Yeah,
those
we earned
benefits.
those.
Thank you.
That's
You're
good.
right.
Yeah.
Earned it.
Thank you, Paul.
That's why they call it an award. It's not
Yeah.
a thing. It's not a. It's an award. You know.
That was
a veterans
sad.
thing.
Well, anything you want to add to when you came home?
Well, God rest my mom's soul. She just passed away at 93.
God
And-
bless.
yeah, and you know, after a couple of weeks, she kept bugging me to get a job. You know, like almost every day. You know, when are you going to get a job, Rich? When are you going to get a job? And to tell you the truth, I wasn't really ready to go into the workforce. I just wanted to just take a deep breath and relax for a while, knowing that I probably missed out on certain part of my life, but I did what I was called to do as an American, and eventually I took the test for the post office and I got hired. But that first year, what happened was Nixon had us for six months. He gave us Social Security, and then he had added another 3 months, which made me very happy about that. So it was like 9 months that I collected.
I never
And
collected
then-
it.
And then I went into the post office.
God bless President Nixon.
President
Sal?
Nixon, yes.
You,
The only thing when you talk about the youth of today, I have a daughter. She's a New York City cop.
God bless her.
And she volunteered for a program with the Wounded Warriors. And when they would come in, they would take them out, show them, you know, Manhattan. It was really a nice thing. They had shirts printed up for them, you know, congratulating the Wounded Warriors. And I think the kids are more involved in that today.
We got something coming up with it. Coming up from Walter Reed.
Yes, they are
Yes.
this month.
This
May,
month,
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah, this
That's
one.
right.
Yeah.
I think the cops can relate to what we went through. The cops are warriors in their own right,
Okay.
and they're looked down on now by society. So I think they
40
can
to 50%
understand.
of the cops that came on a job with me were Vietnam vets. You know?
Wow.
And look at the attitude society has now towards police. So I think in a way they kind of can,
Yeah.
you know,
Shame.
and they're warriors in their own way too. You know, so really,
Well, no.
hooray for the cops. No, really.
I got pulled over by a cop a couple of weeks back, and you know, I made a turn where they had just changed the sign. You can't make a turn, and I told him, you know, listen, I'm a Vietnam veteran. Just stop. Gave me my license back and said, thank you for serving.
I told you that happened to me yesterday.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
Nice.
Same thing.
Cop here, I opened up my wallet. You saw my VI there. I put it away. Go.
Yeah, when I come back, and then I went back to my old job. I worked at Nassau Smelting. If anybody remembers that place, you know.
So
and,
smelting.
Yes.
Oh.
and it's like you never left, you know. You went in there, you were very silent, you didn't talk, and then
Well, that's a good story.
yeah, and then I wound up quitting the post office. And I never knew these guys were in Vietnam.
Worked with them years. We know them.
We worked together.
We all worked together. Didn't
Never
know.
knew.
Never
Didn't know. Nope.
You know, and
And you all have everything in common.
Yeah, we didn't know.
Just the way this past hour has flowed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Well, we got about 2 or 3 minutes left. I want to turn the floor over to Andy. Andy, give us your take on today's show and whatever thoughts you have that you want to say.
Well, only that I have the greatest admiration for these guys. I'm not in that class because by luck of age, I'm older, and I went in '60. Never heard of Vietnam.
Right.
It was nothing until the election in '64, and it all happened after that. So that at the end of my time, we got a little word because they were calling up reserve units. But I feel the same way they do. I never understood that reaction to them when they came home, and I have the same feelings towards Jane Fonda and that crowd, you know, and I still do today. And I don't think those guys that went to Canada should have got amnesty, because the thing is that wars are conducted or handled by the leaders. That's why we have a democratic republic. We elect these people. They choose to fight. These guys are just doing what has to be done. And when nobody says that we shouldn't have gone into World War II. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You see it in a different way, right or wrong. That's what our leaders decided. This is what they think we should be doing. We should be fighting here. Okay, fine. And these guys rose to the cause, and I have the utmost respect.
And don't forget the Korean veterans too.
The what?
The
Korean veterans.
That was
Yeah,
a
oh,
tough
sure,
war.
all of them.
Yeah.
I'm not
The
talking
forgotten
Vietnam.
war.
I'm
That's the
talking about.
forgotten war.
Yeah.
I'm talking about all
That
veterans.
was going to end now, they said.
Yeah.
Well,
Thanks to Donald
don't
Trump.
believe it yet.
Yeah, I don't believe it.
I won't believe
I
that.
served in Korea. Don't believe it yet.
No.
Well, I want to thank all of you once again. Thank you for your service and
You
welcome
too, man.
home.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you for having us. here.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm going to ask you, can we come back and do this again? Because
Yes.
there are so many areas we didn't even touch into yet.
We got to bring Richie back.
You got to have Richie come back. He's the one that's
Right.
got this ball rolling. Yes.
Yeah. Because what are you doing without me?
He deserves to be here more than all of us. Yes.
Paul, I want to thank my co-host Paul for everything. Andy, I want to thank you for bringing it all here, making it
pleasure.
happen.
Whatever.
You really did. I want to thank Rosemary
Thank you.
for telling Andy to come and do it. That's really good.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
I want to take 2 seconds out now to thank my crew in the control room. Rosemary, she does a wonderful job directing, editing, making it all happen. She puts this all together. When you see it on television, it's going to be her product that's finished. Roman on audio, thank you very much, Roman. Terry on engineering. And JR out here on camera, running around camera to camera. You guys just make it happen. You work. I can't thank you enough. I can't thank these guys enough. You just keep watching in honor of. We thank you for letting us bring this program to you. We thank you for keep watching this program. We're up to number 305 and full. We keep
We got
working
3
on
more
it.
scheduled this month.
That's it. We got 3 more scheduled this month. So you keep watching. We'll keep bringing you more information. We're coming back with these guys the next show, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the benefits that they should have been getting all along and what should have been happening with their lives after they got here. Thank you for watching. We love you.